Now, not too long ago, I did a tutorial on the Dancing with the Stars effect, and it was actually the background image where there was a dancer, and then I had added these cool light effects and had some cool brush effects going on. And then at the end of the tutorial, I had added a text element that I had already completed for the logo. And I had a lot of people asking me how I went about creating that very text element or that text effect, and that's what we're going to do in this tutorial. And it's a really good example of using smart objects in a very creative way to get an interesting text effect. So I thought that would make a good lesson here. So while we're not all actually creating logos for Dancing with the Stars, the techniques here involved are very useful and very creative in that you can use smart objects in a way you perhaps didn't think of before. So here I have the 3 text layers that make up the entire name here, Dancing with the Stars. So what we're going to do is go ahead and contain these 3 text layers into a smart object. So I'm going to go hold down my Shift key and just select all 3 layers. Go to the flyout menu here and choose Convert to Smart Object. Now, again, it's a smart object. If I double click on that and open it up, there is those 3 text layers still editable. It's very important that we can keep the text editable even after all the stuff we're going to do to this. So now I want to go ahead and start applying filters. And as you know, if you have a smart object, you apply a filter to it, it's going to be applied as a smart filter. So the first thing we're going to do is go under Filter menu. And now do make sure your default colors are set to their black and white. Just simply press D on your keyboard. Then we're going to go to Filter, Sketch, Halftone Pattern. And inside here, we're going to set the size to 2 is fine, contrast to 1, and make sure the pattern type is set to dot, right there. So go ahead and click OK. And you don't have to worry about getting the settings just right, especially when you're working with a smart filter like this, because you can always go back and change it. Notice what it did in the layers. It attached the filter as a smart filter. So if I double click on it, right on the name's halftone pattern, it'll open back up that window and I can make further changes if I wanted. Very, very flexible. So now what I want to do is add another filter to this. I'm going to add a clouds filter. So we're going to Filter, Render, Clouds. And now here's an interesting thing, and this is important to note when you add clouds to a smart object. You notice how it filled the entire image. We don't necessarily want that. We want it isolated to just the area of the text. So here's what you need to do. Go ahead and load this as an active selection. You can do this before or after. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and load it before. Go ahead and hold down the Command key on the Mac, Control key on Windows, click right directly on the layer icon. It loads the entire contents as an active selection. Then we're going to go into the filter and do that clouds again. And you can see it fills the whole image, but with that selection active, you'll notice down here we have a layer mask for the filter. This isn't for the layer, it's for the filter itself. So we're going to mask out the area outside of the text where all that cloud area is. So just go under Select, Inverse, and then press Option Delete to fill it with black. And now the clouds are masked to just the text alone. So now you can see we've got 2 filters applied, the clouds and the halftone pattern, but you can also grab these and rearrange their order. If I move the clouds beneath the halftone pattern, you can see it starts to interact and giving interesting results. You can blend it even further by going into the blending options of each filter. Here in the halftone pattern, this little icon next to it, if I double click on it, opens up the blending options. You can set the blend mode of this. Let's actually go ahead and set this to hard light and then drop the opacity down to 50%. So it's really kind of blending in with the clouds and looks pretty good. Not too bad. But not quite done yet. We're going to add another element to this. We're going to add some color effects via an adjustment layer. So I'm going to go ahead and load that shape of the text as a selection. Since it's in that layer mask, I'm just going to go ahead and load that as a selection just by command clicking directly on it. And then we're going to go into the adjustment layer menu and choose Hue Saturation. And the Hue Saturation pops up, and here is the adjustment panel. We're going to go ahead and click Colorize. And here I want this to be more of a yellow. In fact, I know I want 27 around there, and I'm going to go ahead and set the saturation to around 60. And it's really illuminating that area of that text. Now, because it's an adjustment layer, this is really cool. You can not only make the adjustment, but you can change the blend mode to blend it even further. So I'm going to change the blend mode of this from normal to vivid light. And look what it's going to give me on that. Kind of cool. Now, obviously we're losing some area in the stars, so let's go into there and maybe drop. You can do, actually, let's go and make that a little bit less. Let's drop that to about 60. So it shows a little bit more of those elements in there. And if you want, you can redistribute the clouds by double-clicking right on the name clouds. Because there's no dialog for the clouds filter, you can just simply double-click on it, and it will give you a new arrangement of clouds every time. There, that one's much better. Very nice. So now, one more thing to add, and that is some layer styles to give these texts a little bit more dimension. So right on the layer containing all these elements, let's add a bevel and emboss layer style. And you can see the default just looks horrible, so let's go down here and make some changes. First of all, we'll make the size very small. Let's set that to 2. And turn off Use Global Light. I'm going to grab the target inside of the angle sphere here and just push that more towards the bottom, more like the bottom right. And you can see it's more like it's illuminating it from the bottom there. It looks pretty good. Not too bad. And I'm going to go ahead and add an inner shadow to this, just to give a little bit of dimension in there. Now, it doesn't look like much against this black background, but when we bring it into our finished document, it'll look pretty good. So click OK there. Now, look at where we are at this point. We've got a really good text effect, texture, and lighting going on this, and we've actually done nothing to destroy our original text. If I double-click on that text layer, or that smart object containing the text, there it is. It's still in its original state. We could change it if we wanted to. And all these effects have been applied via layer styles and smart filters. And an adjustment layer. So I add one more element to this, and that's just to give it more of like an illuminated glow to it, is I'm going to go ahead and load the luminosity of this image as a selection. So over here in the channels, I'm just going to command-click right on the RGB channel. It loads the overall luminosity. And put a brand new layer at the very top of the layer order up here. And I'm going to go over here and grab the eyedropper tool in the toolbar and just sample this bright orangish yellow color inside of the text here. There it is. And then just fill that active selection with that color. I'm just going to press Option-Delete, and it fills it in. There it is. So I've gone and deselected it. I'm going to go in here and go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and really give it a big blur. About a 10-pixel blur looks pretty good. And you can really start to see it's kind of getting a more of an illuminated effect there. But if I'm going to change this blend mode of this layer finally from normal to screen, and look how much more illuminated it gets. It gets more of a glow to it. If it seems too intense, you can always drop it down to around 75. That looks pretty good. And that's pretty much it. So now we're ready to go ahead and bring it into our layout. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the background layer. And since I want to keep this as my working document, I'm going to bring it over into my layout as one single layer. I'm just going to create a merged copy, basically a flattened merged copy of this. So if you hold down the Option key on the Mac, Alt on Windows, and go into the flyout menu of your Layers panel and choose Merge Visible, it will merge all of those visible layers into a single layer. Then we can just open up our layout file we're going to bring it into and drag and drop it over. And there we have Dancing with the Stars. Very cool, illuminated text effect. Now, for one final touch, if you wanted to go that extra step, just add another layer on top of here and do this. Go and grab your brush tool. And in the brush menu here up in the options bar, just go into the flyout menu and choose Assorted Brushes. And you can append it to the existing list, it's fine. Scroll down and look for these little burst brushes right here. This one is number 48. Let's make it a little bit bigger. And make it white. You can see it gives me little sparklies here. So you can just go in here and add random little sparklies to the text to give it that more finished, sparkly superstar look right there. So that is how you can take great advantage of smart objects. Back over here, remember, smart objects, we've got all these smart filters and things happening over here, and we've done nothing to our original text. So taking it to a really complex level without actually harming the original objects and being able to go in there and modify them. And just so you can see real quick, I'm going to go ahead and change this. Let's say I wanted to Dancing with the Cars. Why not? So if I made that simple change to that one text element, close this document and save the changes, it's going to update all those elements in there. Now, of course, we've got some elements in here on layers. We'd have to go in here and make some adjustments to our adjustment layer. But again, you can see how going back and changing the text itself would be easy enough, but you really would have to go back in here and change all those